Welcome to Mozart's Greatest Symphonies Ranked. As ever, I'm marking each movement separately and averaging the marks, all highly scientific of course, because I'm using numbers and a calculator. And, as with my Beethoven ranking videos, I've discovered my favourite Mozart symphony isn't my favourite Mozart symphony. So, straight away at number 10 comes Symphony number 1. Well, I had to include this work, didn't I? I mean, Mozart was only 8 when he wrote this. Can you imagine? There were lots of whispers that the young child prodigy, christened Johannes Chrysostomus Wolfgangus Theophilus Mozart, but known as Wolfhelm by the family, was a puppet played by his deceiving father Leopold, who was pulling young Wolfhelm's strings in the background. I mean, the idea that a kid, a few years out of kindergarten, could produce this is really quite extraordinary. No wonder the tongues were wagging. So, Best Achievement Award for young Wolfhelm, and I suspect more certificates about improving work will be coming to his fridge door in the years to come. So at number 9, we have Symphony number 29. This was actually one of my favourite Mozart symphonies, but that's really because of its wonderful first movement, which positively buzzes with life. Must be all those shimmering rapid bow strokes. But anyway, one good movement alone is not good enough for your averages. So the A major languishes at number 9, while at number 8 we have a good symphony with an even better first movement. It's Symphony 31, nicknamed the Paris since that was where it was premiered. Mozart, now at the ripe old age of 22, wanted to create a stir, so he produced this noisy, vibrant work. Employing, for the first time in a Mozart symphony, clarinets. Mozart clearly wanted to impress his French hosts. It's a fully confident work. If not a stunner, its overall mark has probably benefited from a lack of a minuet trio, which I generally mark down because I find them a bit... Anyway, back to our chart. Next up at number 7 we have a draw. First comes Symphony number 25 in G minor. This is a great early work for Mozart. I say early as the old man is 17 at this stage, and clearly throwing out some musical tantrums. Now this is the first of only 2 symphonies Mozart wrote in a minor key, both of them actually in G minor. The second one has even grander 40th symphony that we'll of course come to later. And there's a G minor feel of anxious energy to both symphonies. There's also a delicious wind trio in the minuet section. So great overall marks for such a relatively early work. I really ought to stop going on about Mozart's age. He's actually 266 years old today, so I don't know what this fuss about young prodigy is. But anyway, back to different numbers. For our number 25 symphony ties with another of, I thought, my favourite Mozart symphonies. Number 35, known as the Hafner. There's always something about a symphony with a nickname. Or a king. It's a question of disambiguation. People, over time, have felt the need to give your particular symphony its own label to distinguish it from other symphonies. And that basically means people are talking about you a lot, which, in the case of symphonies, at least, is a good sign. Not always with royalty, though. So, works of art with attachment names tend to be more interesting works of art. Anyway, in this case, the Hafner refers to the Hafner family, one of Europe's richest. And when it comes to the Mozarts and Hafners, we have in fact the Hafner Serenade, which is also excellent by the way and highly recommended, followed a few years later by this symphony. Both are festive works composed to celebrate, and they're full of ebullience and energy. No doubt why the names have stuck. I've always loved the symphony, particularly its stonking first movement. And the frenetic fury of its final movement, Fling. Which brings us to number 5 and another symphony with a nickname, the Linz. A surprisingly large number of these symphonies bear the names of cities. That's a sign of how much Mozart travelled, and of how much he was appreciated outside Vienna, and of how bleeding fast he could write a symphony. Symphony number 36 is a classic example. Mozart had made an extended stopover in the city of Linz and decided to write, in the space of a few days, an entire symphony as a sort of thank you. And it's a big work. The best thing about the Linz is its fantastic last movement. Energy, dynamism, yada yada yada. But there's also those amazing Mozartian suspensions. So beautiful, and a banging end. Anyway, great symphony, bring us to number 4, and another city title, the Prague, Symphony number 38. Another city, more Mozart adulation. The Bohemians, or as we say today, the Czechs, loved Mozart. They had given his opera, The Marriage of Figaro, a warm reception, and Mozart had premiered his next opera, Don Giovanni, in the city, followed a few months later by this symphony. It's a great symphony, full of excitement but also grand. It's a great symphony, full of excitement, but it's also feeling like it's pushing the symphony form into a more unified and intense expression. That's particularly true in the slow introductory overture. It feels like the sort of symphonic ground Beethoven will soon be mining. So, there's chronology here if you're noticing it. Mozart's 4th final symphony is coming in at 4th place, and, spoiler alert, the final 3 places belong to his final 3 symphonies. It really feels like Mozart is expanding the craft each time he undertakes a new symphony. Each one gets bigger and better. Only now, Mozart writes his final 3 symphonies in a bunch together, and it's the first of those 3, number 39 in E flat, which makes 3rd place. This is a great work, majestic pretty much all the way through, and it definitely deserves its bronze medal. Again, we have another amazing opening. Again, the sort of symphonic territory Beethoven would soon take up, and an increasing feeling of powerful expression from the whole orchestra. What a wonderful work. What could top it? Well, Mozart could, obviously. The only question is, with what? There's Jupiter, his final and probably greatest symphony, or the preceding masterwork, his 40th symphony in G minor. And the answer is, in 2nd place comes my favourite Mozart symphony, which is a sign not to take marking things too seriously with works of art. Anyway, here in 2nd place is Mozart's greatest symphony, with a nickname all of its own, the Jupiter. That indicates this is a mighty work, and yes it is. A grand, stately first movement, strong slow movements and minuets, and then just about the greatest finale written in all symphonic history. For more of that, see this video. All in all, means that coming in at number 1 is my 2nd favourite Mozart symphony of all time, number 40, which is a corker. I mean, welcome to Grumpy Mozart. Furious renditions in minor keys are rare with Mozart, but this is handled so well, it makes for a total pleasure of a symphonic experience with high marks all round. Now, I promise this is the last time I'll mention Mozart's age, mainly because we're coming to the end of the video, but it is extraordinary to imagine what Mozart might have composed if he had lived longer. Say, to Beethoven's age, who was only 56 when he died, well, we'd have had 2 more decades of Mozart. Following the path set out by his final symphonies, what else would he have come out with? How would the symphony as a form have been further enlightened by his magical touch? Or would an elder Mozart have actually intimidated a young Beethoven and stymied his enthusiasm? Would an older Mozart have even retarded the development of a symphony? It would be fascinating to know. Conjecture, conjecture, conjecture. This feels like a perfect way to end a subjective ranking video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. Thanks.